Zahawi was part of a team that couldn't get things done and ruined the country after 14 years. We're just going to have the Tories 2.0.
And that's a lot of Reform members will think that. They thought about that again with Nadine Dorries.
I think this, I'll go on record as saying, this is Nigel Farage's biggest mistake. Come this way, lads. Get on the plane. We're going to go straight back across to France. We're going to dump you back in France. And we're going to say to the French government, these people have come from your shores. We're going to now give them back to you. That's the only way these people are going to be dissuaded. I used to holiday in Weston-super-Mare at the caravan park.
I'm
I had
sorry?
a great Weston-super-Mare.
No, I heard. I'm just sorry.
Oh, you're sorry.
I'm just sorry.
You're just sorry.
What the BBC did was a disgrace. So that is completely unacceptable. It falls way below the standards of the BBC.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Expresso. I'm JJ Anisiobi, and today I'm joined by former Tory Special Advisor Charlie Rowley. Charlie boy, how are you?
I'm very well. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We're trying to say good afternoon, good morning, because people don't know when we've been recording.
Sorry.
But never mind. No, don't worry. Don't worry. You've ruined the intro of the
My
show.
first faux pas.
First of many, I'm sure. Charlie boy, you into football?
I am, as it happens. Yes.
It's the January transfer window.
Yes.
Players are moving around. You could say the same about the political world, right?
I thought you were going to say you were waiting by the phone. Have you got a Crystal Palace getting in touch? Are they...
Very good knowledge.
Yeah.
Palace, well done. Yesterday, we unveiled our signing at the Daily Expresso, Mark Dolan. We've just signed him to the team. And also, you might have heard Nigel Farage has done a new signing as well. Nadine Zahawi. You hear about that one?
I had heard.
Yeah.
I had heard through the
What is it
grapevine.
with your old team hemorrhaging MPs? What's going on?
Well, it's fascinating, isn't it? Because, for so long, Reform have said that they want to smash the Tory party. Nigel Farage wants to destroy the Tory party, and yet there seems to be a lot of ex-Tories that are going across. And look, 2 or 3 statements can be true at the same time. Nigel Farage and Reform want to be a new outfit. They want to get rid of the uni party of the past. So they want to ditch the old ways of doing things under Labour, under this government, certainly under the last Labour government, and under the last Tory government, successive Tory government. So they want to be a completely new outfit. They want to reform Britain. They want to do things that the previous governments have failed to do. And so you can throw that attack on Nigel Farage by saying, well, hold on, you're just packing now your team with ex-Tories. Tories that don't also necessarily have a completely clean record. Nadine Zahawi had to resign as Chancellor because he didn't have his taxes in order. But if you look beyond that Westminster tittle-tattle, Punch and Judy sort of style of politics, the reality is this is another signing for Nigel Farage of someone who's got experience of delivering government. This is Nigel Farage forming a team that can actually get things done. And to be fair to Nadine,
How is he getting a team that? How is he forming a team that can get things done? Because Zahawi was part of a team that couldn't get things done and ruined the country after 14 years. This is not a signing. I think this. I'll go on record as saying this is Nigel Farage's biggest mistake.
Well, that's a criticism that signing another Tory that was part of a failed successive governance isn't helpful. But Nadine himself will say, well, hold on, I was the vaccines minister that delivered at a time of national crisis.
He was the vaccines minister who said children should get vaccinated with or without the parents' permission. There's plenty of people watching this who are against the vaccines and would say that it's up to the parents to decide if kids get vaccinated. Zahawi said kids should get the vaccine without the parents' permission. I don't think that's something you want to have on your record as saying, oh, well, no, he did it. He did that really well. People will be against him.
Yeah, no, totally. And that is perfectly legitimate. You're absolutely right. But as someone that actually has delivered a vaccine program, whether you agree with it entirely, whether you agreed with masks or not, and I think we've now found out that actually masks weren't necessarily successful
useless,
or should have been used when they should have been. So lots of things went wrong during COVID. But for a junior minister to be able to lead a programme when the government ties and the bureaucracy sort of ascends itself and flexes its muscles and is constantly sometimes against you as a minister, to be able to deliver something, I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. Of course, he's used some choice words against some fruity language, I might call it, against Nigel Farage in the past, calling for an amnesty for illegal immigrants.
I think he called him a racist. I think Zahawi called Farage a racist and said he wouldn't feel safe living in this country if Farage was Prime Minister. And now he's helping someone who he thought once was a racist to become Prime Minister. For the record, I don't think Nigel Farage is racist. But equally, if I felt strongly enough that I said somebody was a racist at one point, I don't think you can stop being a racist 5-6 years later.
Yeah, and I think that just displays the heat of the moment of politics, and certainly the heat that I think the last Tory government faced. But it also, I think, just shows the volatility of politics now that people are prepared, having made statements like that, to change their mind, to forgive and sort of forget, or certainly not, if not forget, certainly forgive those comments.
Okay.
And look to the future. And I think, I think Nigel will just think that this is another, for the public, the headline is someone else is joining Reform. So Reform will still have momentum in this race going into the new year. And so I think it's not totally or wholly a bad move.
Right. Let's play a game here. Let's say you're going to open a new restaurant. Right, you want it to open this summer, okay? So what you do, you're going to get the best chefs in the world, right? You go to chef restaurant number 1, well, his restaurant shut down after 2 years because they had poor hygiene. He lost his job. Chef number 2, well, his taxes weren't in order, so the place went bust. Chef number 3, he had some allegations made about him from some of the cooks who worked there about his inappropriate behaviour. So all 3 of them chefs were unsuccessful, but they're supposed to be decent cooks, but they didn't show it in their businesses. Now you're going to open your new restaurant. You're going to go and get those 3 people who failed at 3 different businesses, and you're going to say, "Oh, but under me, they're going to be much better." This is what Farage is doing. He's getting people who were in a failed government. We can blame Labour for the last 18 months, but we can look at the last 14 years of Tory rule, and the country went like this and this and this. And then Farage says, "I'm going to destroy the Conservatives." How, Nigel? By bringing more of them into your party? We're just going to have the Tories 2.0.
Well, on those restaurants, I'm very careful what I put in my mouth. So I won't swallow anything from those hygiene-rated, low-rated establishments. It's all high-end with me. But I totally understand. And you're absolutely right. And that's a lot of Reform members will think that. They thought about that again with Nadine Dorries. They thought about that maybe with other defectors like Jake Berry, the former Tory chairman, who also sat around the cabinet table, like Danny Kruger.
Jonathan Gullis,
Lee Anici,
Lee Anderson, Sarah Potchin. They're all Tories.
They are, but the counter to that some might say, particularly if you're in Reform, is that the Conservative Party stopped being conservative. So this group of people that have crossed the floor have found a home which they are under a leader, under Nigel Farage, that is always saying we must cut immigration. He is absolutely crystal clear about that. That has been his mantra for a very long time. And of course, under Boris, you're absolutely right. The Boris wave, we saw immigration go up. Too much regulation when it comes to businesses, taxes being far too high. Nigel is all against that and has been consistently for many, many years, whatever party he's been leading. So it feels as though a natural home for many Conservatives that want to get back to that that way of life, and particularly with crime as well. But I think what Nadine did highlight, Nadine Zahawi, not to be confused, was when he put out that video, he was absolutely crystal clear, which I think will be the crux of the next election. Whether you're up in arms that Reform have got another Tory on their books, or whether you're still thinking about voting Conservative, you're glad to see the back of Nadine Zahawi, because I'm a Tory through and through, if a voter thinks that. People will, at the next general election, have to wake up and look in the mirror, and this is what Nadine Zahawi said, and make that absolute choice. Is it going to be a Reform government under Nigel Farage that can tackle all of these problems, regardless of who the team is behind him, but everybody's working to the aims that Nigel wants? Or are we going to have another Labour government? A government that we've seen chop and change its mind, U-turn after U-turn. Yeah. That will be a real choice for people. So you might not like former Tories joining the party, but it's a party still under Nigel Farage that has its values, that has its policies, that has its principles that he's put out. And it's either voting for that or sticking up or putting up with another Labour government for another 4 or 5 years.
I thought Nigel Farage was going to be the antidote, a bit in the same way that Trump was in the US politics. He was going to clean the swamp out. I'm suspicious of Zahawi and any of the Tory MPs who've now become Reform MPs or want to be Reform MPs, because Reform is doing so well in the polls. Lee Anderson, at least, was there from the very beginning. Before anything, he was there when they were before Farage was there, right? Lee Anderson was there under Richard Tice as leader. They were those politicians. I think you're doing the right thing, even to an extent, Sarah Potchin. But this latest wave, and what we're hearing from the Tories, from your buddies, is that the only reason Zahawi's gone there is because he went begging for a Tory peerage and they said no. And now he's like, right, I'm going to hit you where it hurts. Petulance.
Well,
petulance and opportunism.
Well, I think it's frankly petulance on both sides, because, if somebody decides to leave the club, what you don't do, for example, when the UK decided to leave the EU, I think you part ways probably amicably. You say, sorry it didn't work out. Shame that it's come to this. But, you can still maybe work together for the benefit of the people of who you're looking to serve. The idea that this story then emerged that Zahawi was after a peerage, that might be the case. But, it didn't happen, and he's denied that, I think. So he's gone elsewhere. But ultimately, we might find a situation where Reform and the Conservatives have to work together in a coalition. If Nigel Farage doesn't get that magic number, I think it's 316 seats for majority, might be a bit more than that, then he might have to rely on people who are now backing Kemi, who seems to be doing pretty well in the polls by her own standing, certainly compared to where the Tory party was at the last election. So, there might have to be a deal there. And what you don't want to do, I think, when you wake up and face that choice, are we going to have a centre-right government taking this country forward, or are we going to put up with a rainbow coalition of the left, of Labour, the Lib Dems, the Greens, whoever else might want to jump on that particular bandwagon? I think the choice will have to be very, very clear.
This does, having Zahawi join them, a man who was born in Baghdad, I believe. This kind of pours water on the people who say that Reform are just full of racists, right? You got Nadeem Zahawi, you got Zia Youssef, of course, Layla Cunningham, who's going to be their mayoral candidate for London. This, and you've got Zahawi saying, "No, I was wrong. Farage isn't a racist. I wouldn't back him if I thought he was." This gives Reform some power, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it does. And look, funny enough, I was having this conversation with someone this morning. Because it still feels quite difficult for me as someone who is, a white British person, man. I don't know why I said person. Sorry. See again, but this
you're so woke, Charlie.
But this is right, yeah, I fell into my own trap there because this is the conversation I was having. Without giving too much away, I was 7 in 1997. I'm 35 now. So growing up and getting interested in politics, it was all under the new Labour government. You then had a Conservative, a compassionate Conservative team that sort of came in under David Cameron. That seemed to be the way. But it was all through diversity, multiculturalism. And it got to a stage where, obviously, if you dare talk about immigration, you're deemed a racist.
Yeah.
Now, I still have this little break going on in my mind whenever I talk, because I feel as though if of course now you're totally free to talk about it, and rightly so, and talk about different cultures in this country, and how Kemi, to her, fair play to her and to her point that she said very early on, there are some cultures who are obviously very different to others, but are different, but more difficult. I can't remember the exact words that she used.
I think she said that not all cultures are equal.
Not all cultures are equal, and that's absolutely right. And what we're seeing in Iran, I don't want to get too off topic, but for too long we've been told, particularly by the left, if you talk about immigration, you're far right. If you dare mention the idea of the hijab or the niqab, that women have to wear, sometimes forcibly by their husband, you must be anti-Muslim. We must need an Islamophobia law written in because you, white privileged Charlie, are part of the problem. And of course that's not true. So you're absolutely right. It shouldn't matter. But that Zia Youssef, Layla Cunningham, now Nadine Zahawi are able to say, look, we are sons and daughters of migrants that came to the UK, but we can tell you that there's a problem with Islam in this country. We can tell you that actually there are some very, very hard-working people that come to this country who are migrants, but a lot of them come here as chances. So, of course, it's more powerful coming from, you could argue, a demographic of people who have been...
You can just say brown people. You can say brown and black people. I'll give you permission, Charlie.
Well, but whether you are black or brown, or whether you are Muslim, Hindu, it does give slightly more weight.
Generally speaking, those people are brown or black, Hindus and Muslims. Generally speaking, so yes, it does give more power, I think, to Reform just to say, the male candidate for London that we're putting forward is a Muslim woman.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And she will want to tackle, the rape gangs issue, for example, from Pakistani communities, that she'll want to tackle the wave of the illegal immigration that we're seeing in some of our shops.
Wave.
The Boris exactly. So it is powerful. And
are you going to leave Tories and jump to the Reform Party? Charlie Rowley, pronouns he, him.
I am, yes, very much. I am a high-end political commentator these days. And I enjoy that role. I enjoy being slightly free to think and not be tied to
So if Nigel Farage says to you, listen, Danny Kruger needs some help. You've been in government. You know how it works, Charlie. Yeah, let's have a pint. Yeah. Join the party.
Well,
that's my best Nigel Farage impression, by the way.
Almost as if he was in the room. Well, I'd say take me to Boysdale's first, Nigel. We'll have a nice lunch and a nice bottle of red, and we'll
So you wouldn't rule it out, would you? You wouldn't rule out joining the Reform Party?
Well, it's not about look, when you're in politics and when you've got the bargain, it is a drug, because you want to always think about what could be better, what should we be doing differently, where is the country going. It could be a huge national issue, it could be an international issue, it could be a very small thing that matters a lot to a lot of people.
What a politician's answer.
But
are you ruling out joining the Reform Party, Charlie boy?
I'm very happy being here with you right now, JJ.
You and Jonathan Gullis are the same. I asked Gullis,
independent commentator, high-end political commentator. I'm not quite sure why I put Jonathan Gullis.
I asked Jonathan Gullis. I asked Jonathan Gullis about 20 times when he's been on this show. Are you going to join Reform? Are you going to join Reform? No, I am Tory through and through, JJ. And then, lo and behold, he joins Reform. I think there's plenty more Tories who are going to join Reform, both from advisors in the background like yourself and both some of the former MPs. I think there's a lot more to come.
I do too, and I think there'll be some Labour ones as well. And I think there have to be, just to balance what seems to be the conversation that we're having now about them. There might be too many Tories. But ultimately, it goes back to what I said before. I don't think anybody should rule out working with Reform because there could be a coalition at the end of the day. And so I think it would be, slightly odd. I
don't think Jeremy Corbyn's going to be working with Reform, mate. No matter what happens, I can't see Corbyn saying, yeah, we'll strike a deal. That ain't going to happen, obviously.
No, but obviously, as a your former Conservative advisor, I can see the Tory party working with Reform.
Yeah.
I don't think, if that has to happen in order to stop Labour coming, of course I'd support that. No, and I'd be encouraging Conservatives that might think, I can never, if there are Conservatives in the Conservative Party that think, I can't vote with Reform, well, I'd say, wake up and smell the coffee, pull the fingers out your ears,
Wake up and smell the espresso.
Wake up and smell the espresso. If only I could say it as eloquently as you did just there. But that's my point. So, being in politics is one thing, but I'm happy to, the phone occasionally rings and people might ask for a bit of advice and what did you think? And I'd be happy to tell them. Do I want a role, frontline, wearing a rosette, pounding the streets again, delivering leaflets, knocking on doors? I think, although those nice red benches look attractive, don't they? I could see, that needs to balance, an age balance needs taking place in that chamber, doesn't it? That upper
it does.
chamber.
Listen, I want to become a lord. I've made no secret of that. If Reform need a lord, I'm there.
Well, there you are. What would you be, Lord JJ of?
Actually, I want to be of Dudley, but there's already a Lord Austin of Dudley.
Oh.
Yeah, Lord Ian Austin. He's an independent. So I'd probably be Lord JJ of Daily Expresso land.
Well, there you are.
Yeah. Right, let's move on. Have you heard the story, Charlie boy, about this migrant visa? A Bangladeshi migrant who entered the country claiming he was going to come as a care worker, got the visa for that. Then he ends up working in an Indian restaurant, serving curries. Has his visa revoked because the Home Office went and did the inspections. Good, did their job. Found out actually he's not a carer. He's working in an Indian restaurant. He then got his lawyers. I don't know how he affords these lawyers, but he was able to afford some lawyers to appeal the decision. He lost. He lost, which is wonderful. But yeah, he's been working here essentially illegally. He claimed he was working in the Indian restaurant because the care home he was supposed to be working for weren't giving him enough hours. Well, I think for a start, the care home that had helped him get the visa to come and work for them basically getting shut down, or at least getting a massive fine so they can stop doing this. But this just shows, doesn't it, how broken our system is. Even our legal immigration system is messed up.
No, you're absolutely right, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was a particular, charity. Probably, it's got to be on the left, isn't it? That might have funded that appeal case. And it wouldn't be surprised if it came out of taxpayers' money. But there was no case to answer, and this is how frustrated people get, because our legal system allows blatant and flagrant breaches of the laws to be challenged. And all of while that appeal was taking place, this chap was still in the country. He was in a caravan. Which is slightly odd.
Yeah, living in a caravan that was on the grounds of the Indian restaurant. Now, I love a caravan. I used to holiday in Weston-super-Mare
Yes.
at the caravan park.
I'm
I had a
sorry?
great Weston-super-Mare.
No, I heard. I'm just sorry.
Oh, you're sorry.
I'm just sorry.
You're just sorry. I had a great childhood growing up around there. It was wonderful. So I don't feel bad for him living in a caravan. And he probably got free food from the restaurant as well.
Well, yes.
Lucky little man.
But he, you know, and he came to the UK and posted, I think, a picture when he first arrived at the airport and said he's made it into the UK. That's great. And then he posted a picture of himself, I think, a few months later, outside that restaurant that he was working. So he didn't help himself. There was no traces of payments being made from the care home to his account.
Correct.
So you know, there's no record of him actually working there. On the days or times or whatever that he said he was doing. So clearly, and not here on the visa that he is entitled to be in the UK. And I am so frustrated by this one, actually, because I've thought about, actually, has this government, when it changed some of the rules, and the previous government, have we been too hard on people who are healthcare workers? I didn't realise that you could actually, clearly, in this case, you could just apply to be a healthcare worker without qualification, which seemed to be the case. Now, that's obviously a problem, and that should be stopped. I mean, but I do think we probably could do with a few more healthcare workers, actually, particularly in adult social care, which is a difficult environment to work in. So if you are genuine, then obviously I think you should be able to come here. But obviously this case is not a genuine case, and he's taken a complete mick out of the system, and right, that case was thrown out.
The Home Office said an attempt to fill between 6,000 and 40,000 jobs in the sector led to the arrival of 616,000 people between 2022 and 2024. So why are they signing off for 600,000 people to come and be care assistants when they need to fill a maximum of 40,000? The system is completely broken. And you're right, since July last year, care workers can no longer be recruited from overseas thanks to Home Office rules changes. And yet still they come.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, again, it goes back to that choice. Can you trust the Tories at the next general election to really fix this system? When, the criticism, I never talked about Nadine Zahawi, but, Kemi Badenoch was around that cabinet table as well. There'll be lots of other, the front bench, Chris Philp, Robert Jenrick. They were all in government at various times.
Don't get me started on Jenrick, mate. Don't get me started on him.
I'll have to come back.
Yes.
But, so can you trust the Tories again? That's the question that people will be asking. And that's why I think if you really think it is last chance saloon for this country, if we've really got to crack down on immigration, if we've really got to slash taxes, if we've really got to burn the regulation that businesses face to make sure that our hospitality sector thrives, to make sure that our farming industry is protected, to make sure that our pensioners are protected, and that the economy can grow, crime can be cut, that you can deport the people that shouldn't be here in the first place, that you can not have these bogus claims of injustice that you've come into this country on a visa that you shouldn't have, and that you've tried to keep by doing other work, you should be deported. And that's what I think, getting a grip of this country is what people want to see. So hard choices for politicians and the public to make when the next election comes.
I got a question for you, Charlie boy, and I think I already know the answer. Are you a fan of the TikTok? Is this your kind of thing? Is that one of your social media platforms that you go to?
I can't get enough. I am on TikTok, but I have not posted a single video, and I don't go on the app. But it sort of seemed to me that everybody was doing it, so I am on it, but I don't know how to use it. I don't really know how to.
Me neither. For those of you watching who don't know what TikTok is, it's like Facebook or Instagram, but for young people. So I don't know why you're on it at your big old age. However, Keir Starmer has unveiled this latest brainwave to stop small boats. He's going to be opening a TikTok account called Secure Borders UK. That was a dance, because on TikTok people do dances. It's all about dances. That's the Secure Borders UK. Yeah, I know. I've got rhythm. There's many strings to this bow.
I thought we might have to call a medic.
So, I mean, he thinks that this is going to tackle online misinformation and it's going to dissuade migrants from crossing the channel. I think that's complete and utter tosh. What do you think?
Well, this might surprise you, actually. Because, well, there are two elements to it. There's the moot point, which is that I think when you have criminal gangs that are encouraging people to take up that small boat crossing, they are advertising on TikTok, on Instagram, on all other social media platforms.
Snapchat,
on
MySpace,
on the Snapchat,
Bebo.
on all of that. Does that still exist?
I don't think so.
And so all of these platforms are available to the criminal gangs and the criminal networks. So pumping out views or the government's messages, which is to don't take up that crossing. You are being sold a false promise. If that plays into the algorithms of people that are trying to search and want to come over, I don't think that is a bad thing. But so I'm all for countering this information that exists out there. But what has happened? I bet you anything. I bet you a beer at Boysdale's at some stage. That instead of this just being an easy decision that somebody would have made to be like, right, we understand. Somebody comes into your office. You're in the Home Office. You've got the Home Secretary there. Somebody comes in, could be a junior press officer from the Home Office press team to say, oh, Minister, we've discovered that TikTok is rife with advertising of false promises to come into the UK illegally. We just want to put out a few videos to disincentivize people to correct that information. Yes, please, go ahead. Green light, that's it. Move on to the next decision. This would not have happened. This would have taken probably months and months of planning and officials and PR people and external affairs companies that have designed the name of what is it called? Secure Borders UK.
Secure Borders UK.
Secure Borders. They would have taken hours in meetings deciding that. And I think if they just actually advertised that dance, that might be a deterrent enough. JJ, you could be fronting this operation.
Put me on the cliffs of Dover, just doing the dances there. Piling up on the shores, that'll get rid of them.
And there'll be civil servants. There'll be civil servants there planning and plotting and storyboarding. What video can we do today or tomorrow? Or can we get? And it will cost thousands upon thousands of pounds. Instead of it just being a quick decision, yes, get on and do it. Yeah. This has become. I don't know why, a headline government policy that it wants to pump out to say, aren't we doing well? Aren't we now getting a grip of smashing the gang?
You're getting the dance.
I know, it's contagious.
See, I think the best thing would be just to say, okay, you've come on the boat. This boat, we tracked it. It's come from France. Perfect. Just come this way, lads. Get on the plane. We're going to go straight back across to France. We're going to dump you back in France. And we're going to say to the French government, these people have come from your shores. We're going to now give them back to you. That's the only way these people are going to be dissuaded. Yep. I don't think seeing if you're that desperate to come to the UK, I don't think seeing a video that says, oh, it's all lies is going to dissuade you when your mate is living in a hotel and getting 3 meals a day. And he's posting pictures on the same TikTok, lying in bed like this and showing his cash and everything else. This is going to do absolutely jack and Ori.
Well, to be fair, you're absolutely right. One video would do, actually, just to see a boat that comes into the UK illegally. You see these people offboarded on that boat onto a plane and arriving in either France or, if the Rwanda policy kicked off, they'd be in Rwanda.
Oh, do me a favour. Rwanda. Never going to work.
Well,
200 immigrants in the first year.
But the numbers would always have fluctuating. I think, look, but the idea, even if it was, not going to accommodate, of course, everybody that's come over in the small boats, we've had 60,000 people that have arrived in small boats. Of course, you can't deport that many people necessarily, but it would have deterred, I think, a lot of those people to make that journey in the first place. So a deterrent is in your armoury, something that I don't think people should have got rid of, which obviously the government did on day one, this Labour government, when they came in.
Rubbish. Anyway, let's move on to the next news story. Are you familiar with Elon Musk's X? Because it seems that they might be getting banned in the UK. Grok, his AI machine, could be getting banned as well because of all of these images of women, mostly women, that have been circulating online. One of my friends, and they're in decor, she's having pictures of herself. She'll be dressed in a normal outfit, and then some user on X says, hey, Grok, put her in a bikini, and then suddenly she's dressed in a Union flag bikini. I saw a video today of her being undressed by Nigel Farage. Not Nigel Farage, no, undressed by Donald Trump. And Donald Trump's giving her a kiss on the cheek. She's traumatised by it. Lots of women are being traumatised by it. And now, it seems that we may end up having to ban X and Grok from the UK. How do you feel about that?
It would be the wrong move.
You think so?
Yeah. And as you've heard in the last 10 minutes, how equipped I am to talk about social media and how much I love it and know an awful lot about it. I think it would be the wrong move. I think you absolutely need to tighten up the rules to make sure that people that are using this Grok to perform this AI tool to provide and produce images of people that are clearly abhorrent, sexualized, and completely wrong. That should be a crime. And I think that's what the government is doing to change the laws, if they're not already there in place, to go after those perpetrators, those individuals.
Yeah, those laws are there. I don't see why Labour aren't just going around. I mean, they could arrest someone for putting out a nasty tweet, but they can't seem to find the cops to go around and knock someone's door for essentially putting out soft porn.
Yes, exactly. And that's why, AI, for all of its wonders, we keep getting told, and I'm sure it will be, and I'm, cautiously optimistic. I'm not gung-ho about it, but, I think where it can work, it should work, and work well. But this is obviously an area where the genie is out of the bottle, and government, the big clunky bureaucratic machine that is trying to put that back in the bottle and trying to right wrong that is just too exposed. But this shouldn't be limited to X, formerly known as Twitter. This is across the board. So singling out one particular social media site, I don't think you can do.
You can't do it. You can't put women in bikinis or make these disgusting images on ChatGPT or Gemini, which is Google's platform. Grok is basically a standalone for this.
And that should be changed. And so that is entirely up to Elon Musk and for X to change that. And if it doesn't, then, of course, well, again, instead of necessarily going to ban the entire platform, you can, I think there are mechanisms to obviously
go after the users.
Sue and go after the users, but also the companies themselves.
Let me show you this picture. Now, as you can see there, this took me 10 seconds. We're going to flash it up for the viewers. But for those listening to the podcast, it's a picture of myself and Mark Dolan sitting in this very studio in our bikinis. Now, that took... And by the way, we weren't wearing bikinis. That's an AI image.
I don't believe you.
But that took about 7 seconds for that to come up. So for the fact that this is happening so swiftly, so quickly, all Musk has to do is just flick a switch and stop Grok from doing that. Why can't he just do that? Why doesn't he do that?
Well, that is the question. I mean, can you not just disable the Grok part of X as an app?
I presume so.
You would have thought that's, but Grok has, along with, I think, the community notices that it puts on, so if you have a video of a politician spouting nonsense or claiming that they've done something when actually they haven't, you can, I think, ask either Grok and certainly this community notice to just verify.
Yeah.
And actually, it will be clear as day that actually maybe that politician's giving you a false promise, or actually that's not quite right. And so it is an information tool to provide accurate information, but it's also producing clearly through these images completely disinformation and misinformation, and that is totally wrong. So it is, but the what should be happening is obviously politicians, I think, and the industry obviously being hauled into government. So the government has its powers and it can flex its muscles, and Liz Kendall, the information technology secretary, can get those people in and say, right, this is, I know it's Tuesday today, but let's say it's Monday. We're having this urgent meeting. This has to stop by the end of the week. This has to be taken down. This has to be disabled. Otherwise, we're going to take what. But you need to tell me and my officials, and send a team of officials to work in-house in those companies to get regular updates. What is it that they're actually doing to halt it? And what are the complications? And then when we understand the complications, we can then work out properly and quickly a way of resolving it. This doesn't seem to have happened, which is why, again, there will be questions because X is a particular platform that I think has perhaps maybe a right-wing bias to it now these days. No bad thing, I don't think, if you want to be involved in that conversation. But it does feel that a Labour government that has been on the receiving end of a lot of that critique and criticism is now specifically going after X. That doesn't sit well with me. It should be across the board. But ultimately, it's for the government, I think, to call these people in and say, right, let's fix it, rather than threats and, again, we can legislate here or we're going to shut you down, when actually it's a platform where a lot of people's work will be on there that is actually, I mean, I might be a high rent political commentator, but a very low grade social media where I just retweet. But of course, a lot of things that are clipped up, I just retweet. And that's 3 or 4 years of my life, effectively, of maybe interviews that are on there, which I might not
get a life, mate.
Which I might not get again.
Get a life.
Not that anybody's watched them in the first place. So it works both ways.
Okay. Well, before we move on to the next topic, if you think I've earned your subscription and you like hit the thumbs up and hit the bell. It helps you. It also helps us. Now, Trump versus the BBC. Our final story today, Charlie boy. So, the whole Trump panorama edits saga, it's still rumbling on. BBC have filed a motion to dismiss Trump's $10 billion defamation lawsuit. They're basically claiming the court in Florida lacked personal jurisdiction. The program wasn't even aired in Florida, and Trump went on to be re-elected after the program was aired. So no harm, no foul. Everything's good. Do you think the BBC have got a case? Do you think they're going to get away with this, or do you think Trump's going to win out in the end?
I think it'd be very difficult for Trump to win, just because of those reasons alone. It's filed in a Florida court that has no jurisdiction, as far as I understand, over the BBC.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the international, personal damages litigation, but he's clearly a very litigious chap. He's gone after, I think, ABC. He's gone after Paramount, I think, which is owned by part of CBS, the news network out there. So he's now coming after the BBC. What the BBC did was a disgrace. You can't just, splice two parts of a speech, which were quite far apart, together in a clip and give the impression that it's as one, to say that, and where he effectively looked as though he was cheering on a group of people to go and raid the Capitol Hill building. So that is completely unacceptable. It falls way below the standards of the BBC, and that's why Tim Davies resigned, and the head of news, Deborah, I think, whatever her name is, she's gone too. So the BBC has paid a price in that respect. But in terms of and it couldn't have been accessed through BritBox, which I think was a claim that Donald Trump made, that people in Florida and people all over the United States could have been able to access this panorama program. I mean, I have to say, if there was any American trying to access a panorama program, in the States, you've got to get a life. Do something better with your time. But they couldn't access it. So, and as you say, he won that election. So it did not have, or it'd be very hard to prove that it had a negative impact on that result. So I do think it's a PR stunt, one for the free speechers, the people who might be a bit anti-BBC, but I don't think in terms of the £10 billion claim that he's bringing against the BBC, I don't think it'll see the light day.
It ain't going to land. But you know what? What do you think? Leave your comments below. Especially I want to hear from our North American audience. There's a few thousand of you. You're very vocal normally, so let us know. You think El Presidente Trump is doing the right thing, or is he going to leave with egg on his face? Charlie boy, thank you very much for joining us today. That is all we have got time for. Don't forget, you can find the Daily Expresso on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Do join me again tomorrow. I'll be back dissecting the biggest news of the day. For now, bye-bye.